Guys, this is Dave Heilman, aka Dynasty Dorks. This is the SGPN Fantasy Football Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, brought to you by the SGPN Free Roll Football Contest. Join our free season-long pick'em for a chance to win $3,000 in a Super Bowl autographed SGP helmet. Sign up link today at the SGPN app. Also brought to you by the Game Time app. Snag the tickets without the stress. Use promo code SGPN for your first purchase to save $20. Download the Game Time app and use promo code SGPN. We're also brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Play Underdog Fantasy Pick'em in college or NFL and win up to 20 times in one game. Use promo code SGPN at Underdog Fantasy for 100% deposit bonus up to $100. And don't forget our friends over at DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the app now and use promo code SGP. New customers can score $200 in bonus bets instantly when they just bet $5 on any NFL game. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code SGP. So that's actually not me in the video. That's somebody else. My wife said I got a haircut. My wife said I look 5 years younger. So we're here. It is football eve. It is the eve before kickoff, and we got a lot of stuff. So if you have start sit questions, anything fantasy football, let us know. We're here to talk fantasy football, and of course, hit that subscriber button. So Brad, we got some news. Jamie, my dog, always in here. Make sure you give Jamie a follow if you're out there. And Jamie, I'm gonna let Casey know that she's got to interview you. So, as far as the news, we had a lot. And so Jake Haener, he got a PED suspended. PED is gonna be suspended. Not huge news for fantasy football, but he was decent draft capital guy. He's out for 6 games. Then you have Nick Bosa, huge contract, more IDP news than anything. Brian Burns decided he's not going to go play football this week. He's in a contract dispute. Interesting. They had 2 first-round picks plus offered to them by the Rams. They turned it down. Brian Burns isn't playing this week. That's big news for the Atlanta Falcons, who play the Carolina Panthers. And then big news, Chris Jones is not playing this week. He was actually delivering hamburgers at Ronald McDonald House today. I got all the nuggets. I saw a video of him with handing out burgers at the Ronald McDonald House, which shout out to him for doing that. But He's not playing football, so Chiefs fans don't like that. That's definitely got a big impact on, when the Detroit Lions offensive line is as good as it is. Not having Chris Jones is massive. And then Travis Kelce, everybody's heart stopped when they saw Travis Kelce's news. So, Brad, and then Cooper Kupp. He's been in Minnesota for a week seeing a specialist about,
He's out.
He's out now. Yeah, he's out.
He's ruled out for week 1.
So it was day to day, and then he's going to see a specialist, and he's been there for like a week. I'm like, yeah.
We got some other nonsense with Chandler Jones too, right? You talked about Chris Jones, Chandler Jones. Very unhappy with the Las Vegas Raiders. And then McDaniels comes out and says, he's away for a private matter. Come on, man. Let's not be. What kind of smoke screen are you trying to throw here?
Yeah. No, thank you. This is an interesting one. Brad, take off the brown and orange sunglasses for this one. You taking Van Jefferson or Elijah Moore?
I can't do it. Elijah Moore. And I think it's because of the last sentence, Jamie, that you wrote in there. I think it's going to be a shootout between the Cincinnati Bengals and the Cleveland Browns, which is going to lead to Deshaun Watson throwing the ball a ton. I think they're going to want to make sure that Elijah Moore gets started off on the right foot, right? You go into this game and you give Elijah Moore 2 or 3 targets. Are you going to get the same treatment, which has kind of been my red flag with him, that he gave the Jets because he was unhappy about his target share and his utilization there? So I think they come out trying to feed him a little bit and making sure that he gets a healthy dose of Deshaun Watson. So I'm rolling with Elijah Moore.
Yeah, I'm also rolling with Elijah Moore. I do think Van Jefferson is in play, so I don't think he's
For
someone,
sure.
but I think you go with Elijah Moore, higher scoring game, higher scoring offense. And so, Brad, I want you and Jamie, I want your take on my take for the Nick Chubb situation. So, someone said Nick Chubb #1 RB, and I said I think he's going to be really good, but I don't know about RB1 just because all of the RB1s in the last 7 or 8 years have gotten 70 or 80 receptions. Only one guy got 40 receptions, and that was Jonathan Taylor, who was amazing on the ground, and Nick Chubb could do that. But other than that, everyone else had at least 73, 75, sometimes 110, 115 receptions for guys that get the overall RB1. It doesn't mean he can't be RB2, 3, 4, 5. But my thoughts are this. He's not going to just consume the Kareem Hunt role. They're going to use Pierre Strong and Jerome Ford as somewhat in that role. But I think this tells us the Browns are looking to be a different kind of offense. They're looking to pass the ball more. They're not investing high salary cap on a second running back. They invested their second round pick and their third round pick on receivers. And so I think they're going to pass the ball more. Doesn't mean Nick Chubb is not going to get 20 carries a game. But I think that some people are expecting him to just absorb Kareem Hunt's workload. And I don't see that.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. I think he's a top 5 guy based on volume alone, but getting to that #1 is going to be tough. His career high in receptions or targets is 49. Now, I do think he bests that this year because, look, they let Kareem Hunt go. They released Demetric Felton. They brought in a Pierre Strong who I'm not buying is taking literally any snaps away from Nick Chubb. They're not taking Nick Chubb off the field to put a 7th round traded Pierre Strong into the lineup. That's just not happening. However, the thing that people don't necessarily think about is the quarterback. The quarterback historically has not checked the ball down to the running back position. It's not really what Deshaun Watson does. So I think that in itself is going to limit the fact that, oh man, Jamie, I swear I was saying that before I saw your note up here. Severely limit his 70 to 80 target upside that you kind of need to have for that #1 overall running back position. But he leading the league in rushing, I think that's plausible. Leading the league in rushing touchdowns, I think that's plausible. Now, I just don't think that's going to be enough to get him to that #1 overall. You're muted, bud.
We want to talk about Cooper Kupp and Travis Kelce. So, we have Cooper Kupp's injury. So he's out this week already. Hamstring injury. He's coming off an ACL. He's a little bit older. He's had some injuries in the past. And so I was telling people like probably 4th, 5th round would be like the highest I'd take him in redraft. But I remember trading him last year and it felt kind of ugly, but trading him away. And I feel a lot better right now about it. And then Travis Kelce is a guy that people are shaking in their boots right now because you were riding high and this is the best tight end. And then all of a sudden the reality hit about him. So are you seeing any trades out there, Brad, or what are your thoughts right now? Obviously, everyone that has Travis Kelce is holding him. You're not going to go. You never sell when there's blood in the water. But what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, look, if you've held on to Travis Kelce up until age 33, why are you trying to move him at this point? Like, I think you hold him, you roll with it because like you said, you're going to try to sell him right now and you're not going to get the value that you could have 2 or 3 weeks ago before this injury came up. So you might as well hold. I think you look at this, you can see a ton of information around why you move guys earlier than, what you really want to, right? Do you want to move Travis Kelce when he's destroying the competition? Do you want to move Cooper Kupp when he's destroying the competition? No, but from a dynasty perspective, you really should probably evaluate it. Very much like I evaluate all of my lineups in DraftKings. And hey, the NFL season has finally arrived. And we are here with DraftKings Sportsbook, which is our official sports betting partner of the NFL. And they're giving you a can't miss offer for week 1. This week, only new customers can get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you bet not 1, not 2, 3, or 4, but $5 whole on any game. That's right, $200 for a $5 bet. DraftKings is hooking up everybody with game day greatness, and all customers can take advantage of the 2 new offers every single game day this September. So make sure you check out the app. Download now and use our promo code SGP to sign up. New customers can take home $200 in bonus bets instantly just for betting $5. Again, that's code SGP only on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. The crown is yours. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER and see DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details and state-specific responsible gambling resources. Bonus bets do expire 7 days after issuance. Look, it's that time of the season. You're trying to get tickets. Do I want to go to a Pittsburgh game? It's right here, 30 minutes down the road. It's last minute, but can I make it happen? You got to check out Game Time. Buying tickets to your favorite events shouldn't be stressful. It's the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all of your sports, music, comedy, and even theater that is going on near you. With killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for all the fun that you're going to have at these games. Look, I've talked about it before. I got a group of guys that we go every year to a Browns game up on Lake Erie and enjoy ourselves. Last year, we splurged a little bit. And we said, you know what? Let's get some front row tickets to that Baltimore Ravens Cleveland Browns game in Cleveland. And I absolutely loved that front row experience. We looked. Those tickets are almost half the cost of what we paid last season if you check out gametime.co. So snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use our promo code SGPN for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, go to the Game Time app and create an account and use our redemption code SGPN for $20 off. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
So yeah, we're going to talk about the age cliff. And so I think there's a lot of misconceptions of what the age cliff is. And maybe it's just because me as a 37-year-old, I don't want to call a 32-year-old old. But in NFL and Dynasty, that's how it is. And so for quarterbacks, Brad, what do you think the age cliff is?
Ooh, for quarterbacks, I'm going to go age 32. I think a little older for quarterbacks, and I may be optimistic here. At 32. I'm gonna say 32.
So, and this data is off of Dynasty Apex. Some great articles and research on this. So 33 is actually the number, and it's saying that, you know, at age 20, at that point it was age 27 is when players were peaking. I think it's happening a lot younger now, but with these running quarterbacks, you're seeing injuries. I do think that number is going to go down. You know, Cam Newton, he might even be 33 right now. He's been out of the league or out of at least relevance for the last 3 years. You know, these running quarterbacks or these quarterbacks that do both, they get more injuries. And, you know, when you're having some of these major injuries, especially the knees and things like that, it's tough. But 33. So when you look at some of the quarterbacks, like Tom Brady, already out of the league. You have Aaron Rodgers is 38. Now, you know, now you have this window to sell that he's got this 2-year deal with the Jets. You have a window to sell. You can hold on to him and you can try to squeeze 2 more years out. Or you can do what you did with Matt Ryan and hold the bag, or Ben Roethlisberger and hold the bag, or Philip Rivers and hold the bag. And you're now, at the last year, tried to sell them when they got moved on to another team. You didn't get anything back. Kirk Cousins, a little bit older. Ryan Tannehill, Matthew Stafford are good examples of guys where the values just dried up. You could have traded Matthew Stafford 2 years ago for a boatload of picks. Ryan Tannehill, a couple years ago, he had back-to-back QB1 finishes. You could have traded him for something. Now, I can't even get a sniff on the trade block. I think I might be able to get a late third for him, so I might as well just keep him. Derek Carr is a little older. He's 31. Russell Wilson's 34. Jimmy Garoppolo's 30. So like those are guys that are in that like range. So as far as running backs, the 85% of top 12 running backs happen between the ages of 22 and 28. You do get your random Mark Ingram at 30 years old, scores 12 touchdowns and gets in there. And you have to consider the usage. Guys like Alvin Kamara and Austin Eckler and Aaron Jones, they don't get the same type of usage that Joe Mixon and Dalvin Cook and Leonard Fournette and Ezekiel Elliott get. So guys like Ezekiel Elliott, we saw it coming. When you see things like forced missed tackles, yards after contact, those kind of stats start to go down every year. Everyone always had an excuse for why it was happening, but it was 3 years in a row. Now his value is kaput.
I love that you bring up Zeke because he's one that I took a look at, and we're talking about not just the age cliff, but what do you do with these players? So if you take a look at Zeke over the last 4 seasons, so in 2020, his overall ADP was number 3, and he gave you a top 12, number 11 in half-point PPR leagues. Then you look at 2021, he dropped to number 15 overall and gave you a RB6 finish in half-point PPR. Then 2022, he dropped to overall number 52, gave you a 19 running back finish. And then in 2023, this offseason, he is around 180 in overall ADP. So if you go and you kind of translate all of that, you want to know what the latest 2 trades for Ezekiel Elliott are right now?
I'm going to go with a late third or an early fourth.
How about $50 in fab? How about Kylan Granson and a third?
What happened?
If you'd have sold Zeke 2 years ago, you're getting much higher value. For what? You lost an RB19 finish? And then what is going to be probably really bad this season with the New England Patriots, unless he manages to vulture 18 touchdowns like we had LeGarrette Blount a few years back for them. Not really in the cards. So think to sell these guys a year or 2 early. And I got a couple more examples when we get to the wide receiver position.
Yeah. And so like this article I wrote last year. And so guys that I had on it, I said, Derrick Henry, Alvin Kamara, Aaron Jones, Austin Eckler, Dalvin Cook, Leonard Fournette, Ezekiel Elliott, James Conner, Kareem Hunt. These are guys that are already losing value.
Kareem Hunt, it's not even on a team. Dalvin Cook changed teams and is the backup.
Ezekiel Elliott. So you have, there still is some reason to keep Derrick Henry and Austin Eckler. And there may be a reason to acquire them because of how cheap they might be because of the age. A player the value of a player is what somebody in your league is willing to pay. Just because some trade chart, some dynasty price check, some guy named Dynasty Dork said you need to trade him for this. If somebody's willing to pay more, then that's the price. And so if you get an offer and you think it's an okay offer, it's totally fine to shop it. It's totally fine to be like, Brad, hey, Maddie sent me an offer, a 2nd-round pick or 2 second-round picks. I'm looking to move Austin Eckler, but I'm not going to do it for something like that. Are you willing to give me a 1st and a 2nd? That's what I'm looking to get. And he says, no, but I'll give you a 1st and a 3rd or a 1st and a future 2nd. Then, maybe we're talking. But I'm going to use those other – and I come back to Maddie, say, hey, I got a 1st and a future 2nd. Are you willing to up your offer or I'm going to take it? That's how you do business. Don't take the first offer and try to squeeze as much out of it. But don't be a jerk about it. Just make sure you're playing your cards right. But it's important to do that because if you go and you trade these guys and you get a little bit of value but not enough, you're only going to have so many pieces to trade off, and that's not how you do it. So as far as receivers, Receivers are a little more, a little longer shelf life between the ages of 23 and 30. So that's a very long prime. But you're looking at guys that are in the 28, 29 range that are getting there. And so like Deebo Samuel's a little bit older. He's only been in the league 4 years. He's already 27, going to be 28 soon. Amari Cooper's getting there. Keenan Allen's getting there. And the reason I mentioned those guys is they're still being drafted pretty highly. Maybe Keenan Allen a little lower, but Debo's pretty high in your dynasty leagues, and you can move a little bit for him.
Yep. Yeah, and there's a lot of guys like that. There's so many wide receivers that you can move those guys for a wide receiver in the same range that's a couple years younger all day, every day, because there are so many. What you can miss are those high-end top 10 guys like the Cooper Kupps of the world, guys like Michael Thomas a few years ago, right? And those were kind of the case studies I used for the wide receiver position. If we go back to Michael Thomas, back in 2019, he was the number 5 overall dynasty selection. Same thing in 2020, the number 5 overall dynasty selection, right? 2019 was that huge season. 2020, coming off that huge season, gets injured. Then 2021, he dropped to ADP of 54 overall. Then he dropped to 86 overall. Now he's 130th overall. You just see continuous decline. You used to be able to get in that 2019 season where there's literally no possible way that he could have finished any higher than number 1 overall wide receiver, that you could get multiple first, 2, maybe even 3 in the right circumstance. And guess what you're getting for Michael Thomas now? Because he got hurt in 2020 and you're like, I can't sell him now. I got to hold until he comes back healthy. How about Richie James and a second? Does that make you feel good inside? How about Damian Harris straight up for Michael Thomas? Thinking 2 years ago I could have got multiple firsts for this guy had I moved on from him, and we chose not to. Cooper Kupp. Are we in for a very similar stretch with Cooper Kupp where he was, overall number 9 in 2022, overall number 16 last year, coming off of the injury, and now you can get him for Pickens in a second. Okay. That's still, maybe Pickens is worth a first, so I'm getting a first and a second. Sell. Get him off your roster right now. He does no good for you right now, looking at a year or 2 years down the road. So making that move may be the right thing to do for your dynasty squad.
Yeah, and if you don't get the right offer, it's okay to hold, but as soon as you see that window, you have to take advantage of it. And so I'm sure my buddy Mike Florio probably didn't like my quote tweet, but he said, Kadarius Toney's finally healthy. And I was like, that's a sell window. Please jump through it and take advantage before it is too late. But before it is too late, I want to make sure I talk to you guys about Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy is as a way to play alongside your favorite fantasy football team all season long with their fantasy pick'em game. You pick between 2 to 5 players, select whether they'll go higher or lower on one of their stats. Then do what you usually do, spending your Sundays watching the game. You can win up to 20 times your money in a single game by going 5 for 5. It's a fantasy game, but you can win real money. I just put an article out today. I mean, I love doing it, especially these island games, the Thursday night games, the Sunday night games. It makes it so much more interesting. You can go linebackers, you can go kickers, you can go everything. And they're giving you a free 0.5 overall touchdowns for Patrick Mahomes tomorrow. You can use it one time, but I'm going to use it. So you can watch your games, make a little cash on Underdog's mobile app or the website, underdogfantasy.com. When you use promo code SGPN, they'll double your first deposit up to $100. It's promo code SGPN. And then don't forget our Patreon, free season-long NFL Pick'em contest, $1,000 for the first place prize, $500 for a second. If you're a Patreon member for the NFL season, your prizes double to $1,000 and $2,000. Plus, a Patreon member wins the free roll football, can win the free roll football that's autographed, full-size Sports Gambling Podcast helmet which includes guests like Joe Theismann, Bill Romanowski, Pac-Man Jones, John Sally, Eric Metcalf, and LeGarrette Blunt. Sign up now at the SGPN app, Sports Gambling Podcast / Patreon. Get your chance to win double your prizes and win weekly Patreon pick'ems. And check out my article. I got 10 free picks for you tomorrow. So with receivers, I said 23 to 30, and we're seeing earlier production from receivers. A lot of receivers are coming out more polished, and you're seeing it a little bit earlier. Your tight ends, they start to decline between the age of 30 and 32. So Travis Kelce is kind of the Derrick Henry, where he breaks the data, but he's an outlier. And you look at the other guys, 30 to 32. On this article, I put sell Zach Ertz. I think I nailed that one. Said sell Logan Thomas. Yep. Darren Waller. I said sell him. We'll see if I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I hope he's fantastic this year.
Fingers crossed, because I spent some capital on him this year.
Tyler Higbee's, he's getting up there. He's 29, he's 30 now. Mo Alley Cox, Hayden Hurst. Some of these guys are not as relevant. George Kittle's another one. And so if you can take a Darren Waller or a George Kittle and turn him into a Dallas Goedert or a Dalton Kincaid, there's ways to get younger, but you are going to have to give up some production year one in most scenarios, sometimes a couple of years. And that's the tough part. If you're a competing team, it's hard to move on from some of these guys, especially at a position like tight end. There's not a lot of good young options. Receiver, there's a lot of good young options. For running back, sometimes there does appear to be good young options, but it doesn't. Like there's after Ken Walker, nobody's safe. I mean, nobody's safe. Yep. So, Brad, anything else on that?
No, so the tight ends, they might be the one exception for me, right? Once you get one, you might want to ride them until they're completely worthless. Like, there's so few and far between for the truly elite ones that even Travis Kelce after this season, let's say it's injury riddled, you could still probably move him for like a Dallas Goedert or, maybe not Dalton Kincaid because there's probably a ton of hype, but it really is an opportunity to just ride that tight end wave until the wheels fall off. And because it's such a rare position for that caliber of player, you could probably still get a crap ton of value out of them to at least turn it into something on your dynasty squad. So they might be the one that I'd say maybe you don't sell a couple years early for that position.
It's tough. It's tough. So
I think Andrews is at least 3 years. I think Waller's 30 and Andrews is 27.
That's what I put. Yeah. I believe it's 27 and 30. So here's my picks. And so if you're listening to the show, you get my picks. So the first one, Patrick Mahomes, over 0.5 total touchdowns. Yeah, I'm taking that. I put that as a bonus. I got Jared Goff under 35.5 passing attempts. So I originally was going back and forth with this, but here's my rationale. No Travis Kelce. It's going to be a little bit more of a slower game. No Chris Jones, so that they can run the ball a little bit more. He eclipsed this mark 9 times last year, which is, essentially half the time. But the Lions were also the worst pass defense in the entire NFL last year by a lot. Every major category. So what did they do this year? They spent a lot of resources on fixing the secondary. They have an entire new secondary. They also picked up some linebackers. It's a much improved team. And we're talking just 2 or 3 attempts less. If you look at it, he hit 37 multiple times. So I'm going to go with under, because I think it's a little bit more low scoring now that we have Travis Kelce out. And I do think they try to lean on that running game a little bit with Chris Jones out, keep Patrick Mahomes on ice on the sideline. David Montgomery, 0.5 total touchdowns, not just rushing, total touchdowns. I'm taking the over. It's a great offensive line. It's a 50-point spread. I'm going to take David Montgomery over on the touchdowns. Amon-Ra St. Brown, they moved this number up. So if you took it earlier in the week, you got a much better deal. I think it was at 6. Now it's 7. I'm going to go over. And the reason I'm going over is no Jamison Williams. I don't think Marvin Jones, Khalif Raymond, and Josh Reynolds are going to take too much off of his plate. I think Jahmyr Gibbs gets involved. Sam Laporta might get a couple, but I think he gets 10 to 12 targets. They don't have a premier corner. There's no Sauce Gardner. There's no, there's no elite corner over there. I think he's going to get 10 to 12 targets, hauls in 8 or 9 of them, and you get your +7. My next is Jahmyr Gibbs, and I put 11.65 fantasy points. I always tell everybody, check your settings. Any game you play, no matter what it is, no matter what book it is, no matter what, check your settings. 4-point passing touchdowns for underdog, 0.5 PPR. And so with 0.5 PPR, I went with the fantasy points instead of the yards for receiving, yards for rushing, just because I don't know exactly how they're going to use him, but I do think he can easily get 11.5 points. It's 11.65. This is for the IDP guys. I put CJ Gardner-Johnson with over 3 tackles. I just think he's going to be able to do that. He's going to be a big player. He's going to play a lot of snaps over there. 3 tackles is pretty easy. And I got Patrick Mahomes over 24.5 completions. I think you see a whole lot of Jerick McKinnon out of the backfield catching the ball with Travis Kelce out. I think you see a lot of Sky Moore, Kadarius Toney in the underneath routes. They're not going to be able to do some of the things that they like to do. Chiefs are horrible against pass catching running backs. Exactly. So I'm going to go with Patrick Mahomes over 24.5 completions. I don't think he throws the ball as deep, but he's going to do a lot of underneath stuff, shorter, higher completion percentage. Harrison Butker over 1.5 field goals. Yeah, I think he gets that by halftime. Jerick McKinnon over 25.5 receiving yards. Like I said earlier, I think he can get that. Isaiah Pacheco, it's over or under 10.5 receiving yards.
So I got a question about the Jerick McKinnon thing. So with the Travis Kelce up in the air, kind of unsure what's going on, if he misses the game, do you believe that the bigger benefactor is Jerick McKinnon, or do you believe it's Sky Moore? Like because to me, I'm leaning towards Sky Moore more than I am, more targets and more opportunity for Jerick McKinnon.
There's a high correlation to running back and tight end targets. If you find any team that has a high volume tight end, they don't throw the ball to the running back and vice versa. And I with this,
what's the other position that sees that correlation though? Slot.
Well, what you're gonna get is this team didn't find this injury out the other day. They found out after the game plan's been installed, after everything is. I don't think Sky Moore's role changes. He might benefit, but I think the biggest benefactor is Jerick McKinnon, who might have had a very small role and now has a much bigger role. And Kadarius Toney's there as well. I don't disagree that Sky Moore gets a little bump, but I don't think Sky Moore is going to be super heavily involved. And I actually have the under on his 60. I think it's 46.5. Let me see.
46.5. Yep.
So I have Sky Moore under 46.5. He hit that one time in 18 games last year.
I'm smashing that over right now.
And so I need to see it. I need to see it.
Interesting.
And so I get it that what you're saying is they operate in similar spaces. I think Sky Moore will get those middle of the field targets and McKinnon gets more out wide. Yeah, I mean, I think that they're both going to benefit. I almost took the under on MVS 40.5.
Yeah.
I want to put some unders on there. It's always like you want to go over.
It's so hard to do unders sometimes. Yeah.
So I wanted to get an under in there, and just like I said, Sky Moore, he's only done it one time. And in the playoffs last year, I know Kelce was playing, but in the playoffs last year, he had 5 catches for I think like 18 yards in 3 games. It's just, he just has not been like a yards after the catch guy like we thought. And he doesn't have he doesn't get the ball down the field enough. So maybe he gets a couple more catches, but I just don't know. I think I like McKinnon as far as like a bigger bump, and especially
Yeah, he's just been that guy that we've consistently heard from every beat reporter out of Kansas City right now. He's the top of the depth chart right now. They drafted him very high, as a second-round rookie wide receiver. We knew he was kind of raw coming out. So it's interesting to see the difference, because I definitely lean towards that. Hey, Travis Kelce not being able to operate in the middle of the field, the benefactor of that's going to be the slot running those middle of the field routes. Maybe not as maybe Patrick Mahomes dumps it off instead of taking that shot in the middle. Who knows? But I'm liking. Maybe I got a little bit of Sky Moore love. I don't know, man.
And I don't dislike Sky Moore. It's just you put him against McKinnon, who I feel strongly about that. Plus at 25.
Yeah, you like those 5 games that he had last year. You like those 5 or 6 games he had last year.
You like to pick on those guys, but he's been relevant before.
He has
in Minnesota.
Yeah.
So I mean, McKinnon is always going to be on the field because he is the best pass blocking running back in the league. Yep. Even though he's not much bigger than Devon Achane. He is a little heavier though. He's about 15 pounds heavier.
Yep.
What do you got for the next segment?
We're going to talk some trade targets. So this is the segment we're going to talk from week to week, right? We want to kind of cover, okay, hey, here's some low-hanging fruit. We're going to cover the trade target article that I'll be writing every week, or running back snap share article that I'll be writing every week, so that'll kind of drive our trade targets a little bit. Dave, I know you're massively writing in the Dynasty space as well, so we'll be talking your articles that drive us into some of these trade targets. But I think one of the ones that we really need to evaluate right now is a guy that you really, really love. And I want to know what you think the expectations are for him before we start talking the price that he brings or what he's dragging. And that is Chris Olave, wide receiver for the New Orleans Saints. A ton of hype around him. Healthy-ish Michael Thomas, a new quarterback in Derek Carr, a completely new running back room for the next 3 weeks at least. So what are your expectations for Chris Olave?
I think he's going to be great this year. I do understand the people that want to sell high. They say he's already like Dynasty wide receiver 7, wide receiver 8. I'm going to sell him high. They don't envision him as a 1. And so, I mean, you could have said the same thing about Stephon Diggs a few years ago. A lot of people didn't see him as a 1 because of his size. I think Olave he had a very good rookie year for, historical, like based on historical data, way above the mean. And he is a guy that you could possibly use if you want to use to somebody like to catapult into the top and get one of those premier guys. If you want to get CeeDee Lamb, you can use Olave as a piece to get CeeDee Lamb. Maybe Drake London and Chris Olave to go get CeeDee Lamb and something else. Wasn't that the trade Maddie sent us earlier?
It was, yeah.
But I do like Olave. I don't think that Derek Carr is a massive upgrade, but I do think he is an upgrade, specifically in the deep ball passing. You're going to see more air yards. You're going to see deeper targets. And Derek Carr is a pretty accurate deep ball passer. And then I think having Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara back doesn't hurt him at all, because he's not the only focal point on the defense.
Yeah, it's interesting because while I agree with a lot of what you say, I do really wonder if Siri, neither do I. I'm not sure I'm willing to pass up the price that I can get out of him right now. So Chris Olave and two 2024 first round picks.
Olave.
Okay. Chris Olave and Zay Flowers or Jamar Chase.
That's what I'm talking about. Like, I'm taking Chase, but that's the kind of move that you can make. And I'm okay with either side, but I would prefer the Chase side.
Chris Olave or Jahmyr Gibbs?
Oof, oof, oof. I'm gonna.
He's bringing some heat right now. Like,
Yeah,
do
like
we really think that Chris Olave is going to bring much more heat than this?
yeah, I think I mean this is why you would like you could easily you can make an argument to draft him as your wide receiver one, and redraft and in dynasty.
Yeah.
But yeah, I that Gibbs one is tough. I think depending on where my team was at. But yeah, I like both. So it depends on my team.
Yep. So Jamie says on the screen here, Olave was better than Garrett Wilson in a points per game perspective. I agree. I actually liked Chris Olave. As silly as it seems, even right now, I liked Chris Olave more than I liked Garrett Wilson.
Yeah, and to Jamie's point, I don't know where those firsts are, but I'm assuming if somebody paid 224 firsts for Chris Olave, they're probably late first. If one of them is early or both of them are early, that changes everything. And so knowing where you're at is hard. And yes, saying it's an early first in September before the game's played, I mean, I got a team that's rebuilding that. Yeah, I can tell you it's going to be a early first. I don't remember who my team is, but I'm pretty sure I barely even have a starting squad. But I think I had Chris Olave on that team too. But yeah, if you can get Marvin Harrison Jr., then yeah, I'm taking Marvin Harrison Jr. over Chris Olave. Period. But I'm assuming they're late first, and I'm just not going to take two random 24 firsts for, like if you look at this year, you would have got like, we'll say, Will Levis and Dalton Kincaid for Chris Olave. I'm taking him, or Devon Achane and Kendra Miller, Zach Charbonnet.
Right, but we've talked about this before. The value of that pick is way higher than the value of the player associated with that pick. So those 224 first, you don't take and wait until the clock is on and say, okay, hey, here's that first. You could go get Dalton Kincaid here, right? It's you need to sell them days or the day of or the day before the draft when they are at their absolute peak, right? But I totally get it.
Of course.
We're not dogging Chris Olave either before anybody gets all upset about this. Both of us love him. Top 10 dynasty wide receiver. It's just, we kind of you can kind of tie this to the age cliff conversation we had. When is the right time to sell these players? Do you sell these players at their peak value? Do you wait until the age cliff and then try to sell them? And it all, everybody's team's in a different place. Everybody's strategy is a little bit different, but making you aware of what the value is for some of these players may sway your mindset a little bit. So
I'll say this, for this year was Bijan Robinson. And if you gave me 2 firsts and Dameon Pierce and Pacheco, I wouldn't have given you the 101 for Bijan. I'm assuming these are late, or at least one of them's late. And so if I have Harrison Jr. or Caleb Williams in a super flex, you're going to need to open up the checkbook a lot wider if I'm going to even consider it. And so again, yes, if these firsts are too early first compared to too late, there's a massive difference. And if it's a mid first and a late first, you're getting a lot closer. And I like this class coming up. I mean, you saw my boy Keon Coleman looking really freaking good. A lot of players look good this weekend. And so I am excited about this 24 class. I actually got a mock draft out on the 24 class, but again, I'm assuming those are too late first, and unless they're two mids or two earlies, I'm taking Olave.
All right, I got 2 more. We'll go through them a little quick because I know we're getting towards the end of the show here. So I want to go to the running back position, and I'm going a lot lower down the draft board here. So we talked Chris Olave, top 10 dynasty wide receiver in most people's mind. Now I'm going to go to like that 20 to 30 range in the wide receiver or the running back space and say David Montgomery, newly acquired running back for the Detroit Lions. So there's all kinds of narratives out there. There's narrative Jahmyr Gibbs is the second coming of God playing every position on the field. There are rumors out there about David Montgomery being the primary running back. So what do we decipher? What do we know about Dan Campbell, and where is your head at with David Montgomery before we get into some of these trades?
So I think both those things can be true. And so you're talking about a team that doesn't really have anything in the receiving game outside of Amon-Ra St. Brown. You're looking at a team that scored 30 plus points a game last year. You're also looking at a team that is modeling themselves after the New Orleans Saints back when Dan Campbell was there, when they had Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram, who were both RB1s at the same time, multiple years of RB1, RB2 finishes. So I think it lowers the upside for both. Jahmyr Gibbs being the number one overall running back is very far-fetched. But Jahmyr Gibbs being a top 10 running back and David Montgomery being a top 20 running back, I think is very likely, especially with the fact that they don't have a clear-cut second receiver. And, Laporta's good. He's still rookie tight end. I don't think he's going to demand he's not Travis Kelce. He's not going to demand to be a big part of the offense. You got Amon-Ra St. Brown and then everybody else. So I think you see a lot. Like you're going to see tomorrow, I would say that they both are on the field quite a bit. Like it's not going to be a situation where David Montgomery's on the sideline, Gibbs on the field, and then switch out. They both could play 70 to 80% of the snaps and be on the field at the same time, like you saw with Kamara and Ingram, other running backs. I mean, there's been multiple systems like this, Chubb and Hunt. That's what I see. I think that 1,000 yards and 10 to 12 touchdowns is in the cards for Montgomery, and he's still pretty young. Like I think he's I have him as my an RB3 in a lot of my teams, and I really like him in that role.
I mean, he's a bot. Everything that you said could be true, can be true, I believe is true. I would not be shocked if he's 1,000-yard rusher, 10 to 12 touchdowns, the exact same thing. And when I can get a guy like that for Nico Collins and Gerald Everett, what are we doing here, people? If I can move David Montgomery, or if I can move Elijah Moore and get David Montgomery, I might do that. Even as a Browns fan, I might be okay with that, right? So he's very affordable right now, and I'm not going to sit here and say that he's going to give us a 17 touchdown season like Jamal Williams did. That's an outlier season. It is not fair for anybody to turn around and say David Montgomery steps into that exact role and scores 17 touchdowns because he's a better running back than Jamal Williams. I won't disagree with that. I do believe he's a better running back than Jamal Williams. There were a lot of factors that went into that I just don't know are the same thing. But what I do believe is exactly what you said. Both of them are going to be on the field at the same time. I think Dan Campbell's kind of alluded to that. He hasn't come out and said that. But when he talks about Jahmyr Gibbs doing things that people aren't going to be ready for, and he can line up all over, and he's our best deep threat, all of these things beg to question a couple things. One, well, how is he going to do that, and who's going to play the running back position? Right? If he's your primary deep threat, well, who's standing behind the quarterback? It's going to be David Montgomery, both of them on the field. Or it could mean, and I'm not advocating this, but I heard somebody talk about it today, is he positionless now? Like he's not good enough to have a run. He is our running back, or he is a slot. He's our wide receiver. He's positionless. We could play him everywhere. Like that typically hasn't panned out when coaches say that, right? So that's the other narrative or the other side of the equation that I was very shocked to hear on some podcasts earlier this week that I listened to. So those are out there. Those takes are out there. So I think feeding on the David Montgomery and some of those takes that are out there around Jahmyr Gibbs, it's a win-win situation right now. Because what if Jahmyr Gibbs, knock on wood, what if he goes down? David Montgomery starts to get some of that receiving work that we know he can do. He's caught the ball in the past. So there's no reason he can't do both. So I just think it's a win-win. You get a guy that you can plug into your lineup every week, and there is some significant upside from an injury perspective if that is in the cards. So
Yeah, I like him a lot. So Jamie, I'm actually going to show you the Immaculate Game. I thought about adding it to the show, and we're going to test Brad's knowledge. And I was lucky enough to pull a Browns card. And so, Brad, you have to connect the Y and X axis. So give me a player that was on the Chargers and Seattle, or Chargers and Browns, or Chargers and 10 plus sacks.
So I don't know if
10
he's
plus
still on the
sacks.
Chargers, but Travis Benjamin used to play for the Browns, was on the roster for the Chargers for a few. That can't be right.
Yes, I think that is right. And if I could spell it, might
Still on the 2023 roster? That can't be
no.
right.
It's in the if all time.
Oh, all right.
And so I'm gonna take this one for you. I'm gonna go Sean Merriman.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I'm gonna go Sean Merriman over here. I just couldn't spell his name. And so give me a guy. Oh, I know this one. Seattle and Chargers. If you can't guess it, I know the answer.
Seattle and the Chargers.
Jamie, if you're still here, help us out.
Let's see.
You're connecting the Browns and the Cowboys and Browns and Jags. Gerald Everett.
I'm going Gerald Everett.
That's a good one. I was going to go with the Wosu.
No, yeah. I just feel like most people are going to lean on the offensive side of the ball if they can.
Oh, for sure.
More people are going to choose those answers.
Apparently, I can't spell either of these guys' names.
Gerald.
It's so small. Everett's not available.
No, maybe you're spelling it wrong.
No, I put Gerald. Is there I mean,
he's got to be an option. That's nonsense.
Yeah, Gerald. I mean, Owusu.
Everett.
Everett. That's what I put. He's not available.
Oh, geez.
So there's a pass rusher, Owusu.
Nikena. Is that his name?
No.
Nwosu.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's like Ukenna, Uchenna, I believe.
Owusa. We'll just pass on that one.
No, it's
What is it?
Nwosu. Ukenna Nwosu. Maybe that's not how you say his name. Gerald Everett is the answer there. That's ridiculous.
All right, so Seattle and Jaguars or Browns and Jaguars? Who do you got?
Browns and Jaguars was the
I got Amari Cooper down here.
Safety that had a great season for Cleveland and then went on got a big free agency deal with Jacksonville.
Harrison.
No, it wasn't this year. It was a couple years ago. Gosh dang it. What was his name?
Cowboy with 10 plus sacks. Charles Haley.
Micah Parsons.
I'm going a little old school.
Yeah.
Is that wrong? Charles
Haley is left apparently. Safety.
Micah Parsons
played for Browns and Jaguars. What the hell was his name? Tashawn Gibson.
Oh yeah, Gibson.
Gipson.
Yep. All right.
9%.
Is Jamie helping us out? Oh, Vinny Testaverde Jackson for the Browns. Yeah. I know you're talking about. All right, so Jaguar with 10 plus sacks. That's going to be hard.
Josh Allen. Did Josh Allen end up with 10?
Oh, that's a good one. Josh Allen. If I pick the right one. Josh Allen, the linebacker. Nailed it. All right.
Ooh.
Seattle and Jaguars. That's a tough one.
Seattle and Jaguars.
And then Cowboys and Seattle. Jamal Adams tried.
Did Bledsoe play for both of them? No, not Bledsoe. Who's the quarterback?
Hasselbeck?
No, never mind. I was thinking Brunel, and he didn't. Never mind.
We only have one guest left. Seattle and Jags. Seattle and somebody help us out. Dearness Johnson. Sorry, driving.
Oh yeah, Dearness Johnson with Jacksonville. Yeah. Right now.
Seattle and Jags.
I can't even.
All right, just do it. Let's see what we got.
Yeah.
Let's just show us.
Just guess somebody. Yeah, you got to guess. I guess you have to have a guess.
Jake Plummer.
Nice.
All right, we got a 189 rarity, 189 rarity ranking. We could tweet that out. So, a nice fun thing to do when you're watching the games. Carlos Hyde, I think that might be a good one.
No, that was Browns in Jacksonville too.
Carlos Hyde wasn't on the Cowboys?
Nah, no.
Well, all right. Well, as always, I appreciate everybody for hanging out. I was trying to find a way to sneak in some of these beautiful sounds over here.
Drop off? What happened? Your balls drop off?
We didn't get that one in.
Let me be your hero. Let me be your hero.
What else? What's this one?
Your hero, babe.
We're not doing that one. Sorry, Emerson. All right. I'm going to put on some Nelly. Kids out of the bedroom. Everybody, have a great rest of the week. We got football. It's here. Join the Patreon. Make sure you guys get exclusive perks, contests. Download the app. And as always, hit that subscribe button. And good luck this season.
Cheers.
Thanks, Jamie.